Natalia. Thank you so much for this interview. During the last days, we visited your community. We heard your contributions here in the conference, and this inspired me a lot to have this interview with you in order to receive this inspiration for many cities in the world who could be interested in your work. I remember that you started your community work, the La Vida project, in 2009, and it was started as a small family garden. What had happened that this project grew up in a huge community work. So could you describe us some steps what have been done so far?
Well, Marina, we started from a felt need of the community. There was a very special situation in that year that was not only related to foodstuff, but we realized that we needed to have a food guarantee. We're talking about the late 2000, and then we started with our own small garden, and it was a success. And so we couldn't just stuck with that local success for ourselves and keep it as our own. We thought we needed to share it with other people as well. And so we approached women that were victims of domestic violence at the time, fundamentally, because they depended on their husbands, and that was one of the reasons because the wish that subjected them to that violence, that dependence. There were husbands that were socially very correct, were very dignified, but within their households abused their wives and submitted their kids to tremendous violence. And so we started to have a dialogue with different women. Look, there's this possibility, there's another one. And others would say, well, if I could learn how to sew, if I could learn how to acquire new skills. And that's what led us to teach others to how to use their spaces to produce clean, healthy, organic food. But we thought we need to teach them something else. We need to teach them crafts because it is a way in which they could reinforce their economy. And so we started doing workshops where we would speak about permaculture, we would speak about doing making vinegar, wine, but we also taught them to different crafts, for example, sewing and fixing clothes. We needed tools for that too. And those tools, we got them from different places. We approached the Felix Varela Center here at Havana, and there they gave us a methodology that we didn't knew. That is a green map methodology that gave us a chance to see different perspectives. And so we started to diagnose our community for risks and environmental dangers and challenges from our space, from the women's space, from men who had came close to these workshops, and we started to define what was a danger for our community, what was a risk for our community, what was a vulnerability, which we would have to overcome to make their families resilient. And so that's how we started. Not all the time, we weren't successful each of the occasions in which we launched. It was trial and error. We tried to evaluate what went wrong and we would try to perfect it. Later on, we started with some props and then we realized it couldn't be only vegetables or seasonings or other kinds of plants, but we also needed to have other products that could fill the bellies and bring some happiness to the tables of our communities, that help that restore balance and harmony within the household. But it was also a way to for people to have some time to stop within that storm, that routine that was lived around that time, that storm of daily life, to stop and focus on themselves and think, what can I do? What can I do and how can I do it? And so we were to the Martin Luther King Center and we took from there, them we took popular education and we took it in one sip. Wonderful liberatory theory of Paulo Freire, and our vision changed the way we did all these things. We understood that we all know something and we all don't know something, and between everyone we can learn from each other. So these dynamics from workshops, seminars, gatherings were richer and more dynamic. And we started thinking how families and other families, by adding other families, it could open the spectrum of kind of a large family that was from the community to do things, to, for example, planting fruit trees, learning from the soil how to improve it. And a lot of people even said to us, nothing can grow in that soil. Why? Why is that? Let's find some elements that could improve this soil. For everything we plant there works. And so we started with fruit trees. Happily, with the support of another woman who runs an entity that dedicates itself to researching fruit trees, and we arrived at her institutions. She trained us, and we started developing our own small plants to be able to plant them later on, to grow them, to care for them, to study the moon cycles that allows everything you plant has a higher chance to bear fruit and the quantities that we needed that. So we introduced fruits within the patios, vegetable, grains, and also seasonings and other kinds of plants that, and you know, Cuba, the blockade makes difficult to acquire medicine sometimes, and so we started studying by the books of Juan Tomás Freud and other scholars on green medicine and what we could do with them. And then we started trying, and until we had some plants that could substitute medicines that were in deficit at the time. But not everything was so rosy. Not even today, because at the beginning it was crazy. Wow. Estás loca, you're crazy. You can't do that. We had the idea, and we had the preparation through the centers, and we had a group of people that had already joined this dream. And so I said, let's try it. And we started trying. Later on, we realized we had to work with kids because the kids were the keys to some household that remain closed and apart from the experience. And so we started working at the primary school, Ruben Aldama. So the kids started taking their brothers, their sisters, their grannies, their parents, and suddenly we're working with all age groups within the community. And so we started interest circles in permaculture, in crafts, and environmentalism. Because there the kids learn how to plant the seeds, but they remain hurting the birds, for example, or polluting the environment. And so we needed to explain them and to make them understand why was it important to take care of the environment, to take care of the flowers and the animals. And so we started working environmentalism with the kids, with the teenagers, with the young people, and also with the adults and the elders. So we started adding people up, filtering them who had enough will to integrate the project and to replicate what they got within the project. And that's how we started growing. That's how a lot of people started to become subjects in their own reality, subjects of transformation. And by having a teenage girl that from her language, from her way of life, in that age, to be able to interact teenagers, elders, other kids, people started approaching. And so we started from a family garden, and the entire families then started being part of this project as a way of exchanging knowledge, as a way of generating knowledge. That's where Gilberto Jr. and Vida Stephanie, both sons of our marriage, of the marriage that started the project, and then we started to grow. And we realized we needed to deal with other issues, for example, anti-racism or eliminating discrimination in the whole spectrum, because even as institutionally there are laws, in practice within the communities you could still see traces of racism, of intolerance within the communities in different situations. And so we started working masculinities, feminities, through a thorough study, self-thought by the members of the family and other people that had joined the project. This is what has allowed us to work within these spaces in that way. You can just judge it on the value, but how much every family saves economically when they don't have to go to the market, a state market or any other place to get their stuff. And so we have environmentalism, we have taking care of the waters, self-care, and especially sharing. Those are principles of permaculture and also principles of our project. You can think of being a member of a project and not having this disposition to share, this predisposition to share with others, not what you have in excess, but what you do have. And that's how we take in taking care of the sick, to eliminate discrimination based on age, ageism. When we decided to summon the seniors college, which is a state institution, but that hadn't reached my community, because we have another fatalism of sorts, and this fatalism is because our location in which the project situates itself It's a place a bit unknown because it's in the outskirts of the city, in the Arroyo Naranjo municipality, which is one of the most impoverished municipalities within the city of Havana and Cuba. As Fidel said, for example, some 20 years ago, Fidel Castro, in some years ago, when he was discussing the change in the energy matrix, through studies, he came to know that Arroyo Naranjo was the most impoverished municipality within the city. And so we had to reverse that, at least from the microcosm of our community to the macrocosm of a wider community. So I'm very happy, Marina, for this opportunity to share with others, and to say them that even if people say you can't do it, you're crazy, you can do it. It doesn't matter if it's in Cuba, in Jamaica, in Haiti. If you decide to help your community, your family first, your community later, well, you can do it. Don't allow anyone to kill your dreams.
That's my second question. What drove you, what gave you strength to continue and overcome all the challenges, despite of all the atrocities, despite of lack of resources, constantly reinvent some new ways of agriculture and reinventing some ways of development without additional resources? So what gave you this inner strength and belief? So what was the basis of this?
Well, actually, when we apply the methodology, the green map methodology, and we started to have a conversation with different people from the community, we draw a felt need of each family in the community. We diagnose the needs and situations that were at the root of some people in my community leaving the country, for example. All that combined with a situation that has allowed myself to keep ourselves, that we could eliminate violence within the households. We would really like that the youth will decide to keep their life projects within our country and to elevate the quality of life of a community that is sometimes so forgotten, that in which I live. There have been times in which I felt sad, that I've thought, I can't do this anymore. I have thought so, yes, many times. But not only because someone called me crazy, but because many have slammed the door shut in my face. Others, because I've decided to share all this knowledge, or to not to transmit this knowledge, but to share this knowledge with my neighbors, that leads people to look inside of them and stop being objects moved around by objectives set by someone else who doesn't really know the real needs, no, the real needs of that community. And I've been called a rightist, a reactionary. But since I know I'm not any of these things, that I love my country, that I deeply love my country, I love my country, and I love my community, and I love my family. Everything that you could do to keep my family, my community, and my country, will I consult it with the other people. We can do this, we can't do this, but I take it to the trial and error. For example, can we plant these onions? A fruit tree, for example, is it more productive? Well, let's plant it. We can plant on the rooftops. Well, let's see if we can try and plant on the rooftops. Rooftops. We can recycle the gray waters of the household. Well, let's recycle it. Who does that affect? Well, it doesn't affect anyone. Contrary, it makes our community more resilient, more stronger. My family, my community, my Cuba, but every human being. Because in Haiti, for example, you can take solar power, but in Jamaica you can do that as well. But in Brazil you can cooperate and recycle gray waters. And even in Russia, you can be a conscious consumer. You can take care of the animals anywhere in the world. You can take care of the environment anywhere in the world. So I still get negative impacts, but I smile and I move forward. Always, our project has had as a feature to have some feedback from the people in the community. That's why we evaluate every 3 months. We do an evaluation of what we have done so far. And that's why we do some systematizations. Each activity we have done, we don't work randomly or unconsciously. We strategically plan our actions. And through that, we evaluate activity by activity, and we systematize. What have we done that was wrong? What can we do better? If you ask me, what's my wish right now? Well, I wish to have a larger institutional support that I don't have, that each activity that we put as a proposal doesn't get vetoed. That's it.
And the final question. Thank you so much.
La última pregunta. Muchísimas gracias.
While being in Cuba, we felt and even sensed with all our being that Cubans, first of all, very resilient, very noble, and very warm people. And if I would ask you about the spirit of Cuba, the spirit of Havana, the spirit of your land on which you live and work, what would you say? What's the spirit of the place where you live?
Is that we persevere. We have a lot of perseverance. I always remember the story about Mariana. Mariana Grajales, that the mother of the Maceos. Maceo and their brothers were Mambises, were fighters in the liberation wars in the 19th century. And a kid, one of the brothers could get hurt, and she would say to the other younger brother, rise up and grow fast for you to join the struggle. I always remember Carlota. Carlota was a black woman, an enslaved woman that suffered all the evils of slavery, but had a very clear goal: freedom. And so you could be around with four walls around you and be free. We are in Vieja Linda, which is a very small place, you saw, but we feel free within it because of what we have achieved as a project to plant our own food, not all of our food, because we don't have enough space, we don't have enough land. We're asking for land which is unused, filled with garbage to plant them, to raise some animals. So a lot more people could say, I'm free in that aspect. And so we drink from that fountain that strengthened us. I like to read a lot. We read a lot, and we have set up a local library at our place where we give books to the people in the community, and we tell them, don't just follow what I'm saying. Read, open your mind and read. So this possibility to drink from different sources, to read a lot from different authors, to a lot of women from many parts of the world, different climates, different continents, but in the end, women who had dreams that had served as a guide to us, an example. When a door slams shut in front of my face, I seek other alternatives to enter. And I do have to persevere, because day after day, I exchange with kids from my community that need a better life than the one which I have so far. And Marina, here between us, today we have a lot of young girls, teenage girls, that are pregnant, for example. As long as there's even one that has no chance to decide over her maternity, as long as there even one woman who is abused domestically and slapped at her face, as long as there's a black person that receives a discriminatory action, as long as even one person, because of their sexual definition, is discriminated, will be struggling. This person right in front of you, who you are interviewing, will be struggling. But not only myself, I'll be preparing the next generation. Because if we don't take care of the soil, if we don't take care of the environment, what are we going to give as a legacy to the future generations? We need to take care of the earth, we need to take care of the environment, we need to take care of the seas, and we need to take care of ourselves. But the main thing is, we need to love each other. Love each other. It doesn't matter if it's white or black or Chinese, if it's from this way or another, if it's an old man or a boy. Love must be at the center of relationships between humans. And if I can put even just the smallest grain right there, the small grain of sand, in that struggle of many, well, I'll be there. We will be there. Well, I don't know what else to say. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gracias. Gracias a ti.
Thank you so much.
Gracias.